Hi everyone, welcome back to the Fat Lady Knits. I hope you are all well, happy, healthy, safe, wherever you are. We seem to be going through a world with one storm after another in like every part of the world. So please be safe. I'm back. And what is on my table today? Textured socks, of course. What else would I be talking about? Um, There was a question about my earrings, but let's get to that a little bit later. Let's start off with socks. Um, I've been playing again, and this time, this is what I produced. I think this is kind of cute. What you cannot see here, it's not showing up well. See? It looks as though there's a tuck stitch going up between the color stitches, and I assure you that was not the intent. Somehow, in producing the pattern, this is what you get. I think this would make a nice pair of socks for a little girl. Okay, and if you have a masculine or an alpha boy, you would just use a solid color. But this came out really nice. This is neat. Okay. Um, oh yes, I've been looking at this pattern for years. Can you see that? Yeah. And I finally tried a sock in it. But I must say, I think it would be nicer like this. And I did make a sock like that, but I didn't put the cuff on it yet. So you'll see it later when it's done. Because I think this is pretty. Because I'm trying to do some textured socks, but I really want it to be feminine and to be interesting. Okay? And I said, I'm not bragging. This is just so you can see what else you can do if you have a circular sock machine. And if, like me, you get bored and you want to try something different. There's some awesome stuff in the old circular not old circular. Actually, there's some interesting patterns in the old circular sock machine books. If you go on to machine knitting, etc., they do have a tab with some of the old books. I know some people love the Creelman um, instruction booklet, but they're instruction booklets for all kinds of machines. And if you look through a couple of them, you will see that they do have patterns that you can produce on your circular sock machine. They all look kind of the same, but again, it's a cylinder that produces a tube. So I don't know how much variation you can get. And at the time when they were produced, it is what it is. And you can use those patterns. You can use some of the ones I'm showing you, or you can combine them. Or you may have a flatbed book with a technique that I haven't used, and you go and you do your thing with it. Because I have many flatbed knitting machine books, but I don't have all of them. I have a lot because if you weren't here last episode, I've been rearranging my making space. I have books by Catherine Kinder, Denise Muss, Susan Gugliumi, plus I've taken several of her courses. And I was thinking about her because I was thinking about she has the technique, and I have the book Open Spaces. But do you really want a sock with a lot of holes in it? It's an interesting idea, but I can see my folk going, isn't it supposed to be a sock? Why are there so many holes? To each his own. But as I said, you can adapt. You might have a hand stitch that you like. You can adapt it to your circular sock machine. Okay? And what else have I been doing? This one. I love this. I love the pattern and I love the yarn. And once again, it's yarn that I dyed. And I think this time when I dye some yarn, I need to dye more because I try different techniques. And then when I go back to it months or years later, I have no clue what I did. I couldn't reproduce it to save my life. All I know is while I was dying, What was I trying to do? Get the brightest colors I could. As you can see, that didn't always work. Try not to get stripes. That didn't always work. Um, no green. I'm not a fan of green. I love green as a wall paint, but not in socks, sweaters, hats. I don't like green. And the greatest crime of all, do not make muddy brown. Or do not make brown, period, unless it's your intent to make brown. So don't mix colors together. You know how you put in some red, you put some blue, you throw in some orange, you throw in some green, and then you throw that one color. Next thing you know, you have this brown. If you like it, that's great. But if that was not your intent and you're not a fan of brown, sometimes less is more. Okay? But I like this. I think I'm going to use plain colors, but I'm going to make myself a sock. So that's 3 socks I'm committed to making for myself. When am I going to have time to do that? I have no idea. But I've got to, because by now everyone knows I make socks. So when I show up with socks, everybody's head goes down to see what's on my feet. And it's usually nothing very interesting. So I'm going to make some of the textured socks for myself. It's just a matter of finding time. Maybe I can devote from midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning to making the socks for me because I'm awake anyway. Okay? But this one, yeah, I'll throw this here because I like looking at this one. Okay? And then this one, I'm not sure how I feel about it because that's not what I was trying to do. It looks kind of puffy, and if you look at it closely, you see how there's color, but then suddenly there's all this white. I have absolutely no idea how I did that. Now there's someone out there going, oh, I love it. Thank you. But I don't know how to reproduce it. I'm not sure what I did wrong. I know I did something wrong, but I know some of that wrongness comes from the fact that I have a hard time following instructions, and my interpretation of what someone has written is not necessarily what they meant. But I tried. But it's interesting to look at, and I really wish I had a second one because I would wear this. But with my luck, someone would look at me and go, oh, I want you to make a pair like this for me. And I would be stumped. Okay? But yeah, let me throw each one over my shoulder. It's like having fraternal twins. You see those mothers and they've got one baby on each side, but these are just socks. But I like this one. I really do. So I should do something with that. And you know what? As I said, I'm looking at this again. I did turn it the other way and I like it. And I think I may like it in bolder colors. Instead of the white, some other color with this. This is kind of ice creamy to me, if you know what I mean. But it has some potential here. So does this one. They probably all have potential. I have been working in these light colors so you can see what I'm doing. But I need to get to making socks for me. Yeah, and I really want to make some socks with some different heels because I forget the name of this heel, but it's just it's a short row heel. And it's basic because I've been making socks for a lot of teenagers and they don't need a fancy heel. They don't even think about the socks. They like the colors, they pull it on, it's a sock, they're gone. They're not at the age where they can go, I want a square heel, I want a textured heel. They couldn't care less. So that will wait till when they're a little bit older. Let's put this away. You know what I discovered? And this is so funny. Guess who does not have socks? The sock maker. So I sat down at the machine to make myself some socks. And I found all kinds of yarns that I dyed and didn't remember. Clueless. I do remember though how I dyed this one. Now this, what I did, I took a 50-gram skein, and I used the ball winder and I turned it into a ball. And I took an old soup container, it's a circle too, and I put the ball into the container, and then I poured different colors over the top of the yarn. I let it steep and I put it in the microwave, and this was the result. Now, what is interesting, this one is more even than I expected because I did it with another one. And what I found was where the yarn penetrated the most, you had the more saturated color. Oh my good, I actually used the word from learning to dye. Where there was more dye, you really had a saturated yarn, whereas when you got into the middle of the yarn, you had a lighter color. So for example, if you had a deep wine on the outer edge of the ball, by the time you got to the middle, you had a very light rosy pink. Okay, and that's really neat, but you would have to do two balls in two different containers, and we all know dye does what dye wants to do. Dye does not do what you want it to do. It does what it wants to do. So chances are the two balls may match at some point, but not the whole ball because you're pouring, you don't know, you might be a skosh of an inch to the left or a skosh of an inch to the right, and that will affect how the dye impacts the yarn. But this came out nice, and I've been playing with the picot because I love this edging for shorty socks much more than the rib. I find the rib is better, or I prefer the rib for a longer sock because as you go up your calf, I think you need more flexibility. But if you go online, you see people using this hung hem for their longer socks and they're fine with it. It's just not to my preference. I just like this for the shorties. And you say shorty, that doesn't look too short for on my foot. This is short. But what I've discovered, even though this has a deep heel, I think I added 3 extra stitches to the heel because I find when I make short socks for myself, they slip down into my shoe. Because I've seen people make some socks that are like this, just this part. It's just kissing the top of their foot. When I do that, the only thing that happens is that my toes wear sock and the rest of my foot is freezing because the sock has slipped into my shoe and I'm walking as though I have some sort of foot problem. So I've learned my lesson, and instead of putting 10 or 12 rows here, I put 24. That way I know when I put it on, it's going to stay in my shoe and my foot is going to be warm. Okay, and that's for me. And then it was brought to my attention, I am making so many socks for the Blue Princess. How about everybody else? So there's another princess. I made her these. They're not finished yet. You see the toes are still open, so I have to Kitchener them. And again, this is from yarn that I dyed. I'm beginning to think I'm good at this dyeing stuff and I need to get back into it. And I should, because guess what? I have 2 bins, 27 gallons each. I don't know what that is in the metric system. And 1 entire shelf of yarn that can be dyed. So I really need to dye some yarn. I have an entire 27-gallon bin of dye stuff. I've got natural dyes, I've got chemical dyes, I have dyes I bought from California, I have dyes I bought from Boston. I really should dye some yarn. But this one is cute. I think I should dye yarn. Yeah. That should be fun. But this is for another princess. So for all those of you who I didn't know are watching, I'm not sure how y'all found this channel, but I'm on the ball. I'm not just doing for one. And later I'm going to do a sock for a prince because the princesses, they're always, and the princes don't say anything, but they're like, I know they're watching. She's got, where's mine? I'm on the case. Okay? Thank you so much for stopping by today. I have some more stuff, but this video is getting long, so we'll start off with what's over here next time. I'll see you next time. Please take care. And thank you so much for joining me. And if you like what you saw, please hit the like button. Bye.